Once you're born, it's too late. You have been given a temporary body with a brain. You have been given a consciousness. You have been given a certain personality, a certain intelligence, a certain amount of empathy, a rather strong or weak immune system, a very muscular or not very muscular body, a dark or a pale skin, a set of healthy functioning organs or poorly functioning organs, strong bones or weak bones, etc., etc. And eventually you have been given roughly 80 years to deal with all of this. Every being in existence did not decide for itself to be born in that specific way it was born in. A person does not decide for itself to be born in a specific country with a specific religious dogma that is in control of that country. A Muslim did not decide to give himself birth in a Muslim family. A child does not decide for itself to be educated by the educational system of that particular country. In other words, a person did not decide to give him or herself birth into a specific body with a specific brain, with a specific intelligence, within a specific family, within a specific country, within a specific educational system, within a specific political or religious dogmatic system, etc. All of which are responsible for the kind of person that you are and for the way of thinking that you have. Now, to come to my point, regarding antinatalism and natalism again, can we blame somebody for having children if that person was heavily influenced by a family that supports giving birth? After all, that person did never choose to be born and to be influenced by a family that supports procreation. And what about that family? Can we blame them? What if that family was also heavily influenced by their ancestors, and so on and so on? Who is to blame eventually? Why do I ask these questions? Because antinatalists are usually very angry and blameful at people who have babies, including myself, but I have to admit that I always have double feelings. I kind of have a love/hate relationship with people, but for once I feel a little bit more loving and I want to approach it a bit differently. First of all, we are all victims because of the people who gave birth to us. That's just a fact. Everything that can go horribly wrong with us is a consequence of the people who gave birth to us. That fact will never change my mind. But the people who gave birth to us are also victims. Their way of thinking was influenced by the majority and of course by their biological instincts. Now, it's not impossible to change your mind during your life, even if you have been manipulated. Some natalists convert to antinatalism because it made sense to them, because they started to question life itself, or because they started to question morality. But for a great amount of people who continue to procreate, antinatalism doesn't make sense to them at all. So can we blame the people who still refuse to stop procreating after having been exposed to the logic of antinatalism? If antinatalism is a highly intelligent philosophy, and if some people who procreate are literally not intelligent enough to grasp antinatalism, can we blame them? Because they did not choose to be born with a brain that is incapable of understanding antinatalism. Now, of course, in reality, this is a lot more complicated. Why is it that antinatalism makes so much sense to some people, and why is it completely nonsensical for most people, even after having been explained the logic of antinatalism 1,000 times, even when those persons have high IQ? Why do most people never get it? Or why do they refuse to change their minds? Can we blame them if they refuse to change their minds? Or is it that they just can't help the fact that they developed their life-loving attitude? Now, this has a lot to do with free will. If there is no free will, if there is no decision making, if the brain actually runs on automatic pilot, if we actually are just a witnesser of our own brain that just functions on its own without us really participating, then we are all just victims of our own way of thinking. So who is to blame? If there really is no free will, then we are all just unfortunate witnesses of the decisions being made in our brains. So eventually life itself is to blame. Now, this is not a counter-argument against antinatalism. I still believe you should try to convince people to not have babies, or at least not many babies. But maybe at a higher metaphysical level of understanding, there is nobody to blame but life itself. So anyway, this is more of an open question. I'm not saying I have answered the question, it's just a speculation. So feel free to add more thinking to it. Okay, that's it for now. Thanks for listening. Come on, stop the recording.